Hello everyone, I'm re-recording this because my hair was a mess, and I was originally going to do this video for Wednesday, but unfortunately my EDS is giving me a swift kick in the backside and my stomach is acting up. It's starting to subside, which is why I'm recording now, because I did go to edit but the footage wasn't right, so I'm going to try and record, edit and upload tonight, ready for it to go live tomorrow. But yeah, I'm not 100%. I couldn't, even if I wanted to re-record earlier today, I couldn't because we had the maintenance guy in to fix the boiler. Because we had a problem with the boiler, but it's sorted now, thankfully. He's a good lad, really. So this is sort of a continuation on from Monday's video, which was about Brandon Calvillo and the fact that he was dating somebody underage. Now this is an even worse situation, but it does sort of play into the spectrum of those type of things happening. This is last Friday, which is a week ago when you see this video. Austin Jones pled guilty to one count of I don't know whether it was creating porn or child porn or something like that. But he confessed to it and he admitted to it in court. Now he could face between 5 to 20 years in jail and a $250,000 fine. I don't even think that includes restitution. He is currently still out on bail because he is apparently going to therapy and stuff to help him deal with everything. He won't know his sentence until next month, which is March, so we won't know until then. But he will at least get 5 years in jail. Now, considering the amount of people he's hurt and the amount of manipulation he did to people, I think that they've undercharged him, but that's my opinion. We can only go from what they have evidence and who's willing to talk. What I mean by that is not all victims are willing to say, yeah, they did this, yeah, they did that. It's although we would all like to think that if we were a victim of a crime, we would speak up about it. It doesn't always happen for one of 1,000 reasons. So, he did go undercover for some time, which is worrying. And what he would do is he would solicit teens, usually from like 12 to about 16, fans for several different types of things, photos, videos of them doing things of an adult nature, more specifically in adult dance. And it's fine when adults do it, but when you have an adult that's in his 20s requesting videos of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds doing it for him, like I said, and it's not, the fact that he actually thought that it was okay to do that is absolutely crazy, because at the end of the day, you have to be careful what you do, you have to be careful what you say, and this guy probably thought that he could get away with it, and it's turned out that he can't. What he would do is he would use manipulation, like, I thought you were my fan, if you like me you would do this, well obviously not my biggest fan, because if you were you would have done it. Very similar language to a certain other person we've been talking about lately. He would do it over Facebook Messenger, where he would connect with them, then he would talk to them, get them to send these videos, get them to send photos and such like that. And he would do, the actual complaint in question was between August 2016 to May of 2017. There have been murmurs of it happening before then, but nobody has any proof that they are willing to give to the police with regards to this. He told one fan / victim to take her pants off, while saying his name and the part of the body that she was dancing with. So, and his name and their age. So it was when the authorities did see the video, it was like, well, the video was clearly for you because they say your name. It's in your inbox, and the actual communication, he actually says, I want you to say my name and I want you to say your age. And some of the stuff he would get them to say is absolutely stomach churning. I'll put a couple of articles in down below, and I will pop Phil's video that he did on Monday about this up in the iCard. It has come out that he is a victim of victim of repeated sexual trauma as a child. While there is a link between those victims being those that then offend and hurt other victims, that is commonplace and it does happen a lot. And we do know from studies, from experience, that that does happen. But not everybody, and this is pointed in case the person that commented this on one of my subscribers' comments that I really took offence to, not everybody who is victimised in this way becomes an offender. Out of the multiple people that I know that have been abused both sexually and non-sexually as children, not one of them has revisited that abuse on their child. I can tell you that for certain. And the fact that these people think that it's okay to say, well, because you're a victim of abuse, you're likely to abuse somebody. It's like, no, they're not. He also said that he admitted requesting the videos, because he did this to the police, which I think I mentioned in the last video. He actually admitted requesting the videos, and he admitted it was for sexual pleasure and it was for a sexual purpose. We don't know if he shared these with other people. We don't know if these have gone to other people that are paedophiles or that are interested in those type of videos from that age group. We just don't know, and we never will. Because of the plain simple fact is, it's an unknown thing. It's an unknown issue. So, now, the worst thing is, this is just a tip of a very, very scary iceberg. Now, we know we have Austin, we have Chris Ingham, who's had allegations against him, Onision, who's had allegations against him for years. There's Toby Turner, but that's with adults. Then there's 7 Awesome Kids. Then there's the more emotional abuse that was visited on Daddy of 5. And unfortunately, it's more commonplace than we would want it to be. It's more commonplace than we would like it to be. It happens, unfortunately, and it is prevalent a lot on social media. Now, why does it happen, especially with influencers? There is an abundance of victims who will do anything for the influencer. So you have all these teenage girls that were clamouring for Austin's attention, so when he would pay them attention, they were like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So, and then anything he would ask, they would do, because they felt that they had to, because they had to prove their love to him, and to do that they had to do what he wanted them to, which is basically him abusing his power over these girls. And it's absolutely horrendous, but it is an MO shared by multiple offenders of this type that's been going on for decades. Why do you think you find a lot of offenders that are teachers, babysitters, neighbours, uncles, aunties, wherever you can find, and even children's presenters, which we had over here? Any position you can get where you have power over your audience, shall we say, is perfect. Any position of power where you have over your victim type, you will make sure you're in that position. And it happens all the time. They get drunk on the power. A lot of the time, this sort of stuff, it is about sexual gratification, but it is also a lot about power, and that's where a lot of the sexual gratification comes from. unfortunately. We've seen this with Onision, we've seen this with quite a lot of people. The offenders can control their victims through manipulation. We've seen it with Onision multiple times. So they are likely, Onision especially, are able to identify victims or vulnerable people that are more likely to be approachable as a victim because they're in a bad situation at home, etc., which would then make them easier to manipulate. Now, the reason why I say Onision especially is because if we believe what he says about his father, that his father was a predator, then we know that he witnessed his father's manipulation of other people. It's pretty much guaranteed that if he spent any decent amount of time with his father, he witnessed the manipulation that his father committed of other people around him. So, how many are there? This is another question. A lot. I've been on YouNow in the past, and I'll go through. Not that many on at the minute, actually. Next change. But usually when you go onto the Explore page or the trending page, you will see a lot of pictures of children. And you go onto those videos, and a lot of the people that you will see in that section watching those videos are not children. They are adults. There have been multiple instances where other people have mentioned it, where there has been predatory behaviour on apps like YouNow, on Twitch, on YouTube, on multiple platforms. And there always will be, as long as a predator finds a way, whether or not they're allowed to or not, they will still find a way of getting access to a computer. As soon as they get access to a computer, that's it. What they will do is they will find any possible way of getting that information and getting access to their victim type so that they can then pull that victim into them so that they can abuse them. Now, for those wondering how I know all this, and those of you that don't know who I am, those of you know who I am will already know this. I have a degree in forensic science and criminology, and parts of my degree and since my degree I have been studying child abuse at large. In the study I have multiple books on the subject, as well as folders, about 3 folders this thick, just on case studies, on lasting effects, on papers, on everything. When I say papers, I mean papers of the psychological and emotional effects of what happens and how's best to deal with it. So, there are a lot of, when it comes to the offenders, you do have ones that are acting offenders, that are out there, that are going out there, that are offending, that are finding victims, that are abusing. They do exist, unfortunately. Then you have the ones that don't offend, where they have the feelings, they have the urges, but they don't act on them. Now, while I commend them not acting on it, the fact that they still have that urge is still scary, because you never know when that switch can flip and they will say, sod it, and start acting on it. At the end of the day, if you are a risk to a child, you should not be anywhere near a child. Unfortunately, they're everywhere. Which is the other bit. Where are they? They're on all forms of social media. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, YouNow, Twitch, LiveMe, Discord. Everywhere. Anywhere you aren't going to find somebody under the age of 18 or within that victim group, you will find a perpetrator lurking about somewhere. Scary, but true. And a lot of people are wondering why social media. Up until the rising of prevalence of social media in, say, the last 15 years, a lot of these predators, the ones that did have access to the internet, would use websites and forums where they would share stuff, or somebody generate a magazine, and then you'd have to go through all these rigmaroles of signing up for the magazine, and then you'd get access to the magazine and things like that. But that was liable to get caught, especially if it was being shipped from another country, because of it could be seized by customs and things like that. Again, I know all this from my research, from my years of research, from documentaries, from my degree, the whole thing. If you share pictures of a mature nature involving somebody that is not mature on the internet, you are committing a crime. Even if, say, it's two 16-year-olds that are sending naughty pictures to each other, that is still child porn, because the person is not 18. And porn, legal porn, only hits at 18. So if you're not 18 yet, you can't do it. The reason why they choose social media is because there's a plethora of victims. There is access to other like-minded people. I dare say if I were to go on Discord or I were to go on Facebook, I'd be able to find groups where images were being shared. Now, I do know a lot of these social media groups are starting to crack down on these things, but they still happen. They're still out there. Perfect example, and I don't like mentioning this, but there was the time where Sanders Kennedy decided to show mature pictures of Nick Snyder that were taken when Nick Snyder was 16 or 17. Now, technically, that's child porn. I don't think Sanders fully understood the ramifications of it. I don't think that you can now access that through his video, but I do know that those are minor accidents, and he didn't mean to do that, and I don't think he had any criminal charges because the photos were professionally done and Nick didn't have any copyright to them anyway, or because they were readily available anyway on the internet, and they weren't seen as pornography. They were mature but not pornography. That it was sort of like a whatever. But if it is of a pornographic nature and it involves somebody that's not 18, then that is illegal and you can be sent to prison for a very long time. A lot of these offenders go onto social media because what they can do is they can build a fan base around their victim types, which is exactly what Austin did. He built a fan base around his victim types. He did pop music covers, he did music videos, and he was very lively, very essentially immature, to the point where he would entice people 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 into his web so that he can pull them in and get them to do what he wanted them to do. Unfortunately, it worked. We now know the extent of what he's done in the past. He is no longer allowed to access the internet. He is no longer allowed to access any form of social media. While he's been on bail, he's been working in an Amazon fulfillment centre, but he's apparently got no access to the internet, and he's continuing with that instruction and continuing with that, with abiding by those rules. Now, these are the questions that a lot of parents will ask, which is how to spot them. Right. Now, I'd do this if I was a child. When we got the internet at home first, this is what my parents would do with me. And I know with my nephew, they do this a lot. My niece, she's too young to even entertain even following half for these people on social media. I know my nephew is he's allowed access to some things but not others, if that makes sense. Now, how to spot them. If you have a minor, I will check their social media regularly, and I mean every form of social media: Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you know, the whole 9 yards, everything. And I would make sure that they didn't have a secondary account that you didn't know about at all. Whether that means taking their phone off them on a regular basis, whether that means having a relationship with them where they understand why you are being so protective. Obviously, when they're extremely young, they don't go into too much detail, just say there are bad people on the internet that want to hurt you and that want to, pull you away from what you know, and we're trying to prevent that from happening. If you just explain that to them, they generally will understand. However, you need to have a good relationship with them for them to understand that. If you have a child that has a YouTube account, check who they watch. Now, I do this anyway because I know a lot of the kid-friendly YouTubers generally aren't actually kid-friendly. Watch my Jake Paul guava juice video on that one, a rice gum video, which will explain what I mean on that one. But sometimes the kid-friendly YouTubers aren't always kid-friendly, so keep an eye out for things like behavioural changes, not wanting to go on the internet, or nightmares, wetting the bed, things like that, because that's usually like an unconscious sign of something's wrong. Check their emails and texts, FaceTimes regularly. Foster a good relationship with your child to ensure that there is clear communication between the parent and the guardian. It's parent/guardian and the child, which I know my in-laws do with my nephew. I know when my niece is old enough they'll start doing that, where you have to foster that relationship with them so that then you and them can say, right, this is acceptable, this isn't, this is acceptable, this isn't, this is acceptable, this isn't, and figure out what behaviours online are acceptable and which ones aren't. If you find anything, back it up and get the police involved. The police will get involved pretty quickly. I do know if we had quantifiable evidence of certain behaviours with Onision, while we have speculation and while there are bad jokes and stuff like that, we don't actually have any certifiable proof that Onision was grooming Sarah. If we did, we could go to the police and they'd be like, right, come on, you're arrested. But we don't have that, so they can't do that. Now, what you need to look up for in the communications and all this is manipulation language, like, if you're my number one fan, you would do it, I really need this, you're special, please don't prove me wrong, do this to prove you love me, type thing. If they are asking for things that aren't age appropriate, Austin being the perfect example of that. Greg being another example where he took Shyla to a different state so that they could have sex, because she wasn't old enough in the state she was in to have sex with him. When he took Lainey to another country so that they could get married, because they were not old enough to get married at the time. Showering them with gifts, money, games, vouchers, merch, signed photos, attention. One-on-one conversations that the parent will not be happy to have in front of the child or in front of the parent or guardian of the child. That is a big one. If, say, I was able to have kids and I did have a child, and my child was a teen, and they were following, say, Jake Paul, wouldn't happen, but say he did. And then Jake Paul got in touch with them and they wanted to FaceTime them. I would then turn around to Jake Paul and said, the only way that's happening is if I'm in the room at the same time. If I've got a teenage child and an adult man is wanting to talk to my child on FaceTime, I'm being in the room at the time. Information shared with the minor by the minor that the parent can use against them. Perfect example of this is Amanda Todd. Amanda Todd was on live stream one day. I can't remember the platform she used, but she was on live stream and she either accidentally or on purpose flashed somebody screen grabbed it and then used it for, I think, about a year, maybe 2, to try and get her to send more, which would then continue the cycle. And they would say, well, if you don't, I'm going to send it to your school, I'm going to send it to this, I'm going to send it to that, I'm going to send it to this, I'm going to send it to that. And that's what they do. They find something that they can blackmail you with. And we all know how that ended. The phrases, these phrases are used frequently. This is between you and me. You can't tell anyone. It's our little secret. I trust you. You're special. Telling of desires and feelings that are inappropriate between an adult and a minor. Begging language. Revealing information to elicit a response of pity. I've had a bad day and I really, really need you to do this. You know, I've had a really bad day, you know, I've been getting so much hate, type thing. Which is something Greg does all the time. Detailed instructions of what the pet wants. Austin being perfect. He would literally say your name, do this particular dance, in this particular state of undress, and record it. And he even did videos to show them what to do. Requests that contradict the public appearance of the influencer. So while on the cover, Austin was this clean-cut, nice, gentleman, lovely guy that everybody adored, but underneath he had this seedy underbelly of wanting to manipulate people and wanting to control people. Why this needs to stop? While Jones committed the charge of creating child porn, he is only taught to them digitally. While that does have an effect on these people, the effect is bad, but it would be even worse if he had actually met them in person and done other things to them. Now, if we don't know how long it would have taken for him to go that way, we don't know if he actually has or not, but we're just assuming that he hasn't because nobody's come up and said he has. But he's saying that he's never done this, that he's never, you know, approached somebody, but he's committed the charge of creating child porn. The digital conversations and the manipulation that the child suffered will damage that child's trust in people in general, and especially authority figures. But if they'd have met in person, it could have been a hell of a lot worse, unfortunately. And the far-reaching implications, even just of the digital conversations and the digital manipulation, is bad enough. The implications of actual physical abuse is unbelievably high. We don't know if he shared these photos with everybody. I think I've mentioned that, but I'll mention it again because it's worth mentioning again. We don't know if he had a network of people on a website on the internet where he would share these videos or share these share these photos. We don't know. There's no evidence to prove it, but that question is always going to be there. If he wasn't caught, maybe he would have ended up going that far. He would have ended up meeting them. He would have ended up hurting people in actual physical ways. While, like I said, while the effects of what he has done are going to be long-lasting and are going to be detrimental and are going to be devastating, I am just glad that he didn't meet them in person to make it worse, because the issues that they will have because of this are strong, but it would have been so much worse if they'd met in person. It's also illegal, it's dangerous, and it's detrimental to the innocence and the health and the mental health of these children. You need to we all need to keep an eye out, especially if you're a parent or a guardian, or even if you're just like me, somebody who knows about this shit and that is willing to talk up about it. I will repeatedly say, in any video, the one thing I will fight is for the protection of children. If you hurt a child, I'm going to come after you. Which my channel has proven. I've done it before and I'll do it again. You do not hurt a child in any way. Even whether it's digitally or physically, you do not do it. You just don't. And I will continue to call people out on their dodgy shit, including people like Onision. And if they don't like it, oh well. Grow up and at your age then. It's like Onision's a similar age to me. And I would never dream of, in my entire life, ever, of doing half the shit he does. But then again, I've got common sense. He doesn't. Thank you, somebody who actually said that in my last Onision video. You're quite right. Two things that are never said in the same sentence are Onision and common sense, unless the word doesn't is involved in that sentence. At the end of the day, we have to continue to call people out on the shit. Whether it's Brendan Calvero, whether it's Austin Jones, whether it's Chris Ingham, if those allegations are true, which I believe they are, whether it's anybody like this, we have to completely follow through on all this. One thing I am glad about is the fact that Phil is continuing to call people out on this shit. Whereas you've got another person, Keemstar, who refuses to call people out on their shit. And I have told him so much. At least Phil will actually say, yeah, this is an issue, and this is an issue. He covered the Brandon thing. I thought at one point he wasn't going to, and then I realised he was, so I was like quite happy. And he was at the same opinion of me, where it's like, yeah, it looks like she was underage, and yeah, that's bad. And I'm glad I'm not the only one that's thinking that way. But at the end of the day, we have to continue to hold these influencers to accountable, whether it's for abusing children, whether it's for racism, whether it's for manipulation of their fans, then we just need to continue doing it. And we also need to continue holding people accountable that use the word paedophile when they shouldn't. Which is something I will repeatedly fight against people doing, because it is fucking ridiculous. And it is very, very detrimental to people. And belittles the actual victims of that abuse. Anyway, I'm going to edit this video tonight. If I can't, I might edit it tonight and upload it tomorrow. Because I do want to get some rest, because I've got shopping tomorrow. I'm just glad I'm feeling well enough to be able to record it. So stay safe, be good, have fun. And I'll see you on Monday.